Well, hello again. Welcome to another edition of Factually Speaking. And this time around, we have chosen what we consider to be a very important topic, a very important development in the world of technology. And we're talking about artificial intelligence, or AI, as it is more commonly known. And we've decided to bring to the program someone who is going to be able to assist us with the information that we would like to bring to you on this very important topic of AI. And he is Peter Ricketts. And Peter is the CEO of Open Solutions, also Open Solutions for Health and Multiverse Games. In fact, 3 companies. And we want to welcome Peter this afternoon.
Thank you.
Let's start with the obvious question. What is artificial intelligence?
Okay, so basically, artificial intelligence is the training of models, and there are various ways in which you can train a computer to process data in a human-like form. And so there are multiple stages where you have artificial narrow intelligence, which it's more like a tool that human beings use. Then you have artificial general intelligence, which is the next step in the process that AI, or the development within the AI space, is working towards, where the artificial intelligence would be able to process like human beings. And then you have artificial super intelligence, or ASI, and that is when the processing of the computers have surpassed that of the human beings. And to put it into comparison, imagine if you were to go back into past, in the days of the Neanderthals, and try to explain to them what a cell phone was. They would not understand it. And so this is where eventually the capabilities of the computers would far surpass our comprehension. And so even if they tried to communicate with us, we would not be able to understand it because it has surpassed our cognitive ability.
I would just like you to summarize again, the introduction in terms of the various, aspects of AI.
Yeah, so essentially artificial intelligence is the ability for computers to think on their own without being instructed by human beings. So you can ask it a question and it will be able to provide an answer based on the data that it has access to.
But you did talk about narrow AI and general AI, and there was one other.
Super. So you have ANI, which is the artificial narrow intelligence, which is where we are, the state we're in right now. And we're working towards artificial general intelligence, where the computers would think on their own, on par with human beings. And then you have artificial super intelligence, where it will be beyond the comprehension of human beings, where their intelligence will surpass that of human beings.
Well, I think the variety of artificial intelligence that we are most exposed to, and which brought the whole thing to our attention, is GPTs.
ChatGPT,
right?
Yeah.
Especially ChatGPT, which is known as a large language model. Which is to say, you put in text and it will generate an answer. You can also put in text and it will draw a picture for you.
Right.
If you tell it, draw a picture of me, of something that looks like Trafalgar Falls, you'll get something that looks like a Trafalgar Falls with a waterfall and so on. He'll ask you, do you like it? And you want me to make a correction. You make a correction and say, is it better? Yes. No.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. Yes.
Yeah, although we should say that artificial intelligence it didn't just suddenly jump out of the sky. It's been being developed over quite a long period of time. And most people, for example, send emails and they receive email. And when the email comes, if you have a phone that's capable of doing that, there are 3 answers chosen for you already. Yes, that's fine. No, I'm not coming, or something of the sort. So the computer already knows, given the message that you have received, these are the 3 appropriate answers that you should give. And it's more appropriate.
This fits into narrow intelligence, right?
That is correct.
Where the computer basically has specific functions, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, but Mark touched on the history, right? We'll get back to that, but I bet on the history of AI, artificial intelligence. In the sense it's something that has been around, but it's developing, and it's gotten to a point now where we think the potential is vast, right? What can you tell us about how AI evolved?
You may want to get an actual person who has expertise and trained on AI. I use AI. So it's like the difference between being able to drive a car and being a mechanic. You have guys who are race car drivers and they know how to push vehicles to the limits. And then you guys who know how to build the cars and the mechanics. So I would more be the race car driver.
Okay, that's a pretty good analogy.
Artificial intelligence like ChatGPT.
Yes,
it's probably the most.
It's been around for a number of years. I mean, in different.
They've been developing over a period of time, but it's about 2020 or thereabouts. Right. It was kind of made known to the general public. People in the tech field were aware of what's going on, and ChatGPT happened to be, in a sense, first out the gate to make the thing popular. What ChatGPT does, and I think it's already doing that, it's making people in journalism, lawyering, etc., kind of redundant. Because
it's already doing that, or it has the potential to do that?
It's already doing that. For example, I think the first time it was really deployed was in, I think it's the Olympics in Rio. I think, where most of the articles on the games and who won and so on were written by a computer. Yeah? It was, the computer could easily write that. All it needs to know is which countries are running, what's the name of each runner from each country, how fast did he run, who won, what did he, was it a record? Could write that. Wow.
Based on the experts in the field, they predict that we will see AGI, or artificial general intelligence, soon. And we're talking about the timeline has been shrinking. Because they were saying in the next 10 years and it's in the next 5 years. And so soon we will be noticing artificial general intelligence. With ChatGPT, if you notice, they keep coming out with new versions, right? So you have version 3, then version 4. And if you notice how quickly the new versions come out, and that's when you look at the mathematical growth for the advancements in the space, because you are now using technology to advance technology, the improvements become exponential. So now you are growing at a much faster pace because you have more advanced tools to advance from where you currently state. And so I would say ChatGPT has now made knowledge no longer scarce. So when we talk about making certain positions redundant, well, let's dissect that for a bit. We talk about journalism, we talk about law. Really and truly, what these are individuals who went to school, college, university, master's, PhD, and the higher you get along with your education, there are a much smaller set of persons with that level of education. And that's what you consider the scarcity of knowledge. And so that's why they could command very high costs to access their knowledge. Well, now anybody can just go to ChatGPT and ask it a question. And as long as it has access to that data, it can provide equal to or better than answers that a human being would provide without, let's be very careful on that again. There's also a thing called the bias of AI, because the answers it will give you is based on the data, and if the data is biased, then you are going to get a biased response.
Absolutely.
So you have to kind of be careful with the answers, and understand also how to prompt it, where it is getting this information from.
I have actually used ChatGPT to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
I try not to use it too much, but I have. And I have actually found cases where I have asked for certain information, and in one or two cases, the information was actually wrong. And because I know a little about it, I realized that is what had been programmed into, that's what it had access to,
yes.
So I imagine, so it leads to the question, that no matter how advanced, the AI technology becomes, it has to be developed by man. In other words, somebody has to put the data. Explain that to me. They have to help me on it, because whatever data it has access to, is data that has to initially be inputted.
So
by man, right?
you're misunderstanding it.
Right.
Here's what happened. It's like a child in school. You teach the child 1 and 1 or 2. And 4 is twice as big as 2. Right? The child can then continue to figure out, well, twice as great as 4 must be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you trained it to do the computer to know 1 and 1 or 2, and 2 is twice as large as 1, and 4 is twice as large as 2. It will then continue and figure out any number for you.
Okay, so yeah.
We don't have it. Yeah.
Right, okay.
So it doesn't access information that you have put in. It uses the information you have
To
put
generate
in
more?
to generate new information.
Okay, let's talk about that, Peter.
So, and let's recall too, like in the realm of AI, I know AI is a broad term, right? So there's something called computer vision, which allows for computers to process imagery and as data as well. So they can learn through images. Now I saw they have cracked the code on allowing computers to smell and process smells. And so as human beings, we use our senses to advance our understanding that, okay, fire is hot. Don't hold on to fire because it is hot. You're going to get burned. And similarly, the computers are able to learn in that way. But you are right in the sense of the artificial narrow intelligence is based on what we feed it, right? And it's going to improve from there. But after a while, there was this one case that I read about where they had these robots in a room and they wanted them to interact with a ball. And this experiment ran for a long time. I think it might have been Google or one of those larger tech companies. And they did not know why, but one day when they came in, the computers were interacting, holding the ball, throwing the ball, and playing with the ball. And they cannot explain why they learned how to do it. As human beings, we don't know why. Okay. We just know that it is able to evolve on its own.
And shouldn't this be frightening, really? Shouldn't this be scary?
Yes and no.
So it's this thing about the fear of the unknown, right? And that's why you have the saying, knowledge is power. When you understand something, when you know something, you're calm because you know what you're dealing with. Yeah. If you came in your house and you saw boots in your house, you did not know if someone came inside there. Did the person come because they were returning something that you dropped off, or did the person come because they were looking for you? And we fear the boots because we don't know what the purpose of that person in your house was. And it's similar. We fear the capabilities of AI. Will we be able to control them? Will they surpass us and start to manipulate us? And this is happening already. So there are these major states, these superpowers that would use AI to launch particular campaigns. When if let's say you want to, you have two parties and one party supports your agenda, you are going to push content, you're going to launch campaigns to either dissuade people from supporting the person that you want, or to help them, to persuade them to support the person that you do want. And how you do that? When you create a bunch of articles, where do we get our knowledge? You would go on to DNO and read an article. How do you know that that was written by a human being? How do you know that this is a fact? Do we actually go and fact find? Because we have so much knowledge now that we have access to so much data that we really don't have the time to fact check everything. And so now use that to the masses, persons who don't even care. They just see an article, or even now a deep fake. With AI, I can show you videos of yourself doing things that you have never done.
Right.
And persons would believe that. And if they don't have the opportunity to get access to the facts before, let's say, an election, who do you think they're going to support?
Right. Okay. So it is frightening. It has the potential.
Yes.
And
that's
to be
as human beings using ANI, artificial narrow intelligence. But when you get into the general and the super intelligence, we don't know what the motives are.
Right.
So is the motive self-preservation? Is it going to see how it can ensure it has enough data centers? Because these AI requires massive amounts of computing power. It requires a lot of energy. That's one of the problems with AI. And so if it could solve that problem on its own, that's its first problem. It's its existence. It knows that's what it requires. Maybe it goes into space and, inhabits the moon or Mars, where it has no human beings that can come and impede its own advancements. Yeah. So but this is all speculative, right? We have no idea what its intentions and motives are going to be when it gets into the general and super intelligence realm.
Right. So,
but I don't know if you're asking a question, if you're aware of something called singularity.
Yes. Yes. That is
supposed to be here in 2029.
Yeah.
According to Ray Kurzweil.
So tell us about it, Mark.
Yeah. Mr. Ray Kurzweil is an interesting guy.
Yes.
He's the guy who invented the text-to-speech thing on your phone.
Right.
He's more than 60 years old, and he took his first job when he was 62, I think, at Google to work on this singularity thing. And here's what it said. His vision is that the internet and the computers connected to it have vastly more information than any individual brain could have. Therefore, it would be a great thing human beings would become part of the internet so that we are directly connected to it. Which would mean that if we wanted information, we wouldn't have to type it now as you do with ChatGPT. We would simply say, oh my God, I wonder how ice cream is made. Bow. You have the information of how to make ice cream.
So you're speaking about Elon Musk's Neuralink.
Well, the basis of it is Neuralink.
Yes,
right.
But it's basically to say that there is more information available on the internet than we can possibly.
Right. So essentially, what device would be used to make the connection? Some sort of implant, chip in our brain or something?
There would be some method. Yeah.
So Elon Musk, that's what he's aiming to do, right? Have that chip in your brain. However, there are also, like your phones. In the future, your phones are not going to be a handheld device. It might be something that there's this AI that just hangs onto your shirt. It can project onto your hand, and you can ask it any question, right? You have these smart glasses that would have some AI built into it, and you can speak to it and ask it any question. So in the issue of scarcity of knowledge, I don't need to learn anything. Anything I want to do, I have my glasses, the computer can see what I'm seeing. How do I fix this problem in front of me? How do I fix this my vehicle is not working right now. Take a look at it. And it will just tell you what to do. Right? And so that now when you talk about the singularity, well, it's pulling all the information. You don't have it. It has access to this vast data, and it's telling you what to do. And so how much different really is that from it just downloading into your brain? So
in other words, the need, for the use of our brains, so to speak, will have diminished significantly.
That is correct.
We'll have very little use, very little need to use our brains, right?
Theoretically, we would be freed from work.
That's an easy way of putting it, I think.
Yeah. But already, for example, in a car manufacturing factory, hardly any people are working in a factory making cars.
But tell me, gentlemen, yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Already, these are just robots. They narrow intelligence. They train to do one thing. They weld. But all the cars are welding. Yeah. They take the windscreen, they put it on. That's what it does.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's narrow intelligence. The car itself is going to become an intelligent car. Intelligent enough to drive itself. Which some of them, there are already cars driving themselves. Yes? For the time being, it's kind of limited to a few people and so on. But the entire business of making your livelihood driving something, whether it's a car, a truck, a boat, etc., will simply disappear.
Now, you did mention earlier on that with the use of ChatGPT, you may not be able to tell. I mean, you could ask it to do something, give it a command, write a new story, and you just feed in the information, and it does that. Sometimes you don't even have to give it the information. I mean, you simply say, could you please write a story on the fact that an arrest warrant has been issued for the Israeli Prime Minister, and it'll just access the data and give you the story written. The only difference now is that because of my journalistic background, the journalism background, I am able to tell when it is a ChatGPT story. For example, it might begin a story, in an earth-shattering, occurrence, that and that happened. I said, okay, that's a ChatGPT thing, but they have this. But what I'm saying is this: I'm able to do that now, right? But I know as it evolves, as it develops, I'm not going to be
No,
able to tell.
not as it evolves. The problem in that
Not
state,
as it evolves?
the person didn't know how to prompt the
properly.
ChatGPT.
Right.
You can actually, and prompt engineering is a major field right now.
Right.
Understanding how to leverage the actual ChatGPT.
Right.
That person could say, using my writing style, which you can find here,
Okay.
write this piece for me.
All right.
Right.
Okay. So fine.
So not to mention, of course,
Right.
when it writes it for you, you can say, but this is nonsense, don't write like that.
Exactly. I have done that.
Yes.
Yeah, I have done that.
Yeah.
So okay. So it means then it means then there is still hope in the sense that because I am thinking that whether AI, general AI, could get to the point where it basically operates as if it has a mind of its own,
Absolutely. No, it will do that.
It will do that. Okay,
There's
so
no
that
question about
so even so, well, given that situation, and we still have this concern of whether it is going to replace human beings ultimately. The question is when we get to that stage.
You're already at that stage.
Okay, we're already at that stage, and it keeps developing, right? It's not going to stop.
Correct.
So it means that the AI has the potential to be able to think on its own, so to speak.
Yeah. Sure.
On its own, I mean, because on its own is the
Yes.
when it gets to that point, Peter, what prevents it from just taking decisions? On behalf of humankind, of the human race.
That is where now you have a lot of that development that field from law in terms of the safe use of artificial intelligence. Somebody has to be given the authority to take a decision. And so if human beings do not give the authority to the AI, even if though, yes, technically the human being would be communicating the decision, but actually the human being made that decision because of what the AI informed them of what they should do, right? So let's be honest, decisions are already being taken by computers right now.
Can you give us an example, say, of a decision being taken by a computer or AI? Yeah.
Let's say in my everyday life, I have to make a decision as to what type of equipment should I purchase for my office. I just go to ChatGPT and ask it, hey, this is the situation, what should I do? That's the decision is taken. Let's say I am not saying that is actually happening for a fact, although I'd be very shocked if it's not. Let's say I am a minister, right? And I want to have a particular outcome for my constituency, right? And I'm going to, I would go through and provide as much information on the current situation and ask ChatGPT, what are my best options for this desired outcome, right? Then I'm going to take a decision utilizing the information that ChatGPT has provided.
Right, but is it the same as ChatGPT taking a decision for you? I mean, ChatGPT is assisting in providing the information that will help you to make a decision.
Yes.
I've already used it, for example. One second, I've already used it. I was looking for a particular piece of equipment, to do with what we do at DNO. And I went to ChatGPT and said, well, look, what would you recommend as the best, the best, items in that particular, instance, in this particular area, and came back with maybe 3 or 4, right? But ultimately, the decision was mine. It didn't say, well, this is the one you should buy. It said, here's what I recommend based on what you asked.
Did you ask it, out of those 4 decisions, which do you think is the best?
I think I did, I think I did. But the language is such that it doesn't say, from my experience, that, hey, this is the best. It gives you the information. It says, okay, from those that we have, that
We know about, right.
Yeah, so these are, I would recommend those as the,
Well, in my experience, when I asked it, what it would tell me is this is the range, this is the lower range, this is the higher range, and it recommends taking the average. Like that's what ChatGPT would basically tell me. Another decision, like in a common day, I know they were trying to figure out how to be most efficient with the energy consumption of their air conditioning units in a large factory. And they ran it through AI, and AI solved the problem by leaving the AC running at a constant temperature for the entire day rather than increasing and decreasing like they were trying to find the most efficient way. That was a decision that it took. And so even in let's say more technical spaces, if you look at fuel in a diesel plant and it has to move fuel between of the containers and so on, or if it needs to balance some sort of mechanism, the AI would take those decisions. Whereas in the past, you might have had some trained expert to know which, how to turn the knob. So there are decisions being taken, but they're more technical. I think the decisions that you're more concerned about is decisions that would affect a mass of people from like a leader, in more of a leadership position. And I do not believe now where we are as the human race will be willing to do that. But let's not forget, let's fast forward 50 years from now, where you have this new generation of human beings coming out and they don't want to take those decisions. It's about trust. Now I trust that this computer is not going to be biased, it's not going to be racist, it's not going to judge me, and it has my best interest at heart. And so I want the computer to make the decisions for me. This is a very possible reality because it just comes down to who do you trust more. It's new technology, so we don't trust it, but we will in the future. When we're far gone, the next generation's coming in, that's the world that they're coming into. They see the wars that we as human beings wage on one another, the hatred that we have, and they know, wait, this computer is unbiased. It's
well,
no, I know what you're saying based on the data. Remember, we touched on that, but we have identified that bias problem. So this is why you have, when you, depending on how you train the data, so you have ChatGPT that has access to any data source, but we have a partnership with an AI factory, and what that factory would do is train an LLM.
What's an LLM?
A large language model.
Okay.
On a specific data set. So it's not going to go and get any information. You know what information it's using to provide your answers. And so therefore, if now you have pre-screened that data to ensure that it is free of biasness, it is written in a particular way, then you can trust the decisions that the AI will take. Okay? And this is what will happen.
Yeah, there is something.
Yeah.
Everybody who buys a ticket, an airplane ticket, the price of the ticket is set by a computer by itself. There's no human intervention. The computer checks who's booking, who's going where, time of year, this, that, blah, 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 and it sets the price itself. And the price can change every hour. There's no human being involved in it. The human being simply say to it, optimize our revenue.
You would train it on what information it uses to optimize, right? So for it to optimize, it needs to have a lot of historical data, for it to then. But guess what? Though? This is how we as human beings learn. And this is how we as human beings take decisions. When you go to school and you're learning from a textbook, it's based on the previous generation's experiences that they documented, that they put into a book, so that you can read and you can lean on that information to take future decisions. How is that different from what
Okay, so having at what point then how do we know that AI is not going to get to the point where it actually just thinks on its own? It just takes decisions on its own. Because so much data has been inputted, it has learned over it, and so after a while it just begins to think for itself.
Yes.
So it takes decision for you without your knowledge.
We've already passed that stage. For example, one of those things that happened not so long ago, or maybe a couple of years ago, the computer spoke Farsi or translated something into Farsi, which is the Iranian language on which it was not trained.
Right.
But it learned Farsi.
Right.
and translated.
And it had access to the internet.
The information you gave
and so on, and was
it
able
was sufficient.
Okay.
But
what I'm asking...
Because remember what it does, it has this information, and it uses that information as the basis for logical extrapolation. You know, it's a very logical thing. A computer is a very logical thing.
Right.
So if certain things are X, then certain things, other things must be B.
Right.
And it can run through that.
Yeah, okay.
Quick. And the important thing about it is speed at which it can do it. For example, if I want to write a letter to somebody, it'll take me 5 minutes to do the prompt. Make sure I get the prompt as good as I can.
Right.
And you write it in 30 seconds. After that, the letter is written in 30 seconds.
But you see, you're using logic, right?
Yeah.
As a means of measurement of the computer's capability, right? But there's more to life than logic. You know, there's morality, there's ethics, right? So at what point, in other words, are we going to be sure that a computer is not going to delve into areas of ethics and morality? Decide, okay, I think that Peter, right, should not be, I'm looking for an example, but I think that Peter should not be the one taking his child to school, right? I am going to take on that responsibility because I think Peter is perhaps not a safe driver. So I'm going to take on that responsibility of taking Peter's child to school every day. So I'm going to arrange it so that I can be the one driving. This may not be a good example.
For that example, it most likely would have known that the correct procedure is to report Peter as not being a safe driver to the authorities. And the authorities would then come in and evaluate that.
Right now, what is the major cause of motor vehicle accident? Human error.
Yeah.
Okay? When the self-driving cars become, you might say, everywhere, you will be arrested if you go from behind the car trying to drive it. That will be against the law for you to get behind a wheel and try to drive a car. And that is where a lot of things come into play. In that there are lots of people who are driving for their living.
Right.
I never knew so many people drove for their living. There are all kinds of things.
Okay, but the point is,
you get that job of being a driver of something will simply cease to exist.
What is the purpose of human beings? Right?
Yeah.
And really and truly, but what is the purpose? This is how human beings has evolved. Before, yes, we were responsible for advancing our own technology. But then now technology would be responsible for advancing it.
And you're okay with that? You guys are all right with that?
No, it doesn't matter if I'm okay with it happening.
No, but it's just, sure, it may be happening. There are lots of other things that are happening.
Yes.
There's nasty business and so on. It's happening. So not everybody is happy with it.
That's correct.
You understand?
Timothy, here's what comes of it. Let's just take the driving thing. When there will be no more jobs for drivers, it will be illegal to drive. All the drivers will be not compensated, but to consume. Well, the way we conceive of work and consumption has to change. It will no longer be you get paid XYZ because you did ABC.
Correct.
You will have to have, they're already discussing it, what they call it, universal basic income.
That is correct.
Everybody will be given money. The computers will be working away in the factories. There's nobody there to supervise them or so on. They'll drive themselves off. You go to the showroom. You want one. You simply say, come follow me home. And I live. It knows where you live.
So at that point, we will not be controlling computers, right?
We control it very little.
We essentially have lost control, right?
So we will go out and write poetry.
So that is I like that question.
Right?
I like that question. I think I'm not sure, but to my knowledge, the CEO of Altman, OpenAI,
right,
it was said that he was walking around with a bag. You would always see him with a bag, and what that was is a kill switch to the data centers that control ChatGPT. Because in the event that it became a problem, you could turn it off.
Right.
And so it's a good question in terms of it's human beings still has to make those decisions now, right? As to what autonomy we are going to allow technology to have. And I don't believe leaders of countries and states are going to surrender that authority. They would try to have it in such a way that they can control these things. So military applications, work, education, but the ultimate decisions will be theirs to make, right? And that's the policy that they would try to train these devices on. But there are certain examples I can bring up, but I don't want to fearmonger anyone, but there are certain military experiments that happen that would scare you as to the decisions that the autonomous drones took, because they were testing given conflicting information. So let's say they programmed the drone to go out and carry out a certain mission, find this person, take them out. But while they receive that instruction, they then get another instruction that contradicts that instruction. And how it actually interpreted it was the second instruction was a threat, and it saw the person or where the instruction came from as the enemy, because it was trying to make it stop its original mission. And so it went back to bomb the original location. And so then, you don't know how these things are going to process. Yeah. And so that's why I said, but the thing is though, when you see those possibilities, they will put, they'll try to put in safeguards.
Safeguards, right.
Just because we understand these possibilities.
Right. But the question I was going to ask in follow-up to that is how do you know that, because we have already shown, right, that, maybe not demonstrated, but indicated in this program, how it is that artificial intelligence can actually think on its own.
Yes.
Right? Think on its own. So how do we know that at a certain point it's not going to be able to bypass any safeguards that we put? Or having said that, the fact is AI is here now, and it is already, proliferating, so to speak.
Well,
and we need to make use of it, take advantage of what is available, to us.